More.
More what?
Them things. Lovely fireworks.
Nah, mate, it's alien invasion.
Of course it is.
I love low-budget, high-concept genre films, and a lot of the directors I love started their careers by biting off a little bit more than they could chew. So I'm thinking of Spielberg's Duel. I'm thinking of The Duelists by Ridley Scott. I'm thinking of Terminator by James Cameron. His first film was Piranha 2, The Spawning, aka Flying Killers. So I really love those films where directors try and do something very cinematic, something that involves kinetics, chases, fights, something genre-y, but where they're a bit too ambitious and they don't quite have the money, so they have to be inventive and creative to solve problems. So that's the kind of film I wanted to try and make for my first film.
Joe first explained it to me like Lahane mixed with Alien, and I read the script and it was so tight, so pacey, and so much kind of the punchy dialogue I just thought was incredible.
That's the sound of the beast. That's the sound of the police. That's the sound of the beast.
Hey, Dad. Yeah, just on my way to the cinema. Okay, Dad, gotta go. Bye, bye, bye. I pressed it already. Taking enough time.
You know, just seemed so confident talking about it straight away, and for a first-time writer-director to have that kind of belief and that, you know, focus on it, I just thought was incredible.
He knows it more than anyone, and that you got that from the first round. And in the first audition, this is quite unusual. It was a good job I'd learnt all my lines, but I was, you know, you had to act it out. I was given a prop, and there was another actor there with me, and that's quite unusual for a first round, and that immediately you felt completely comfortable with him. And as a directorial debut, I think it's astonishing, but as a film, I think it's fantastic as well. So I immediately felt at ease with him.
I ain't seen you around there before, you know. You lived there long?
Couple of months.
Nice place you got.
Thanks. Thinking of moving.
Shame. Why?
I don't like the area.
What do you mean you don't like that area? What's wrong with that area?
I grew up in Stockwell and Brixton, and you know, I've lived there most of my life, but as you may gather, I'm not particularly street. And yeah, certainly, you know, I grew up one road away from the Stockwell estate that I used to cut through to go shopping in Brixton. That was a fairly notorious estate when I was growing up. But I was more interested really in how futuristic and science fictional those places were and that architecture was. Like when I was a kid, I used to love going through those estates because of the walkways and the way the buildings looked, and they seemed like spaceships or like, you know, ocean liners. They seemed like these really glamorous escapist spaces, and I would be watching all of these amazing American creature features and genre movies, and a lot of them, you know, case in point, E.T. is an amazing fusion of social realism and fantasy. And I'd kind of never seen that done in Britain. We're very good at the social realism, and we're pretty good at the fantasy, but it's quite unusual for the two to come together in the way it did in a lot of American cinema of the 80s. And I always fantasized as a kid, hey, why can't that kind of film happen here?
I'm a big fan of sci-fi. Like, I've watched Alien vs Predator, like all the sci-fi things, and like there's never one where it's youths, or it's always people, army men with great big guns. The aliens come from God knows where.
When I first heard about it, I was kind of like, okay, the aliens and the South London Council estate, what's going on? But then once I got the script, I was just like blown away. I was like, wow, the script is going to be a lot. I have to be in this film.
It was, you know, it wasn't compared to the cliche films, the cliche urban films you think it should be compared to. It was compared to films like The Goonies, Assault on Precinct 13 and Warriors, which are films that I relate to from like Sunday night Channel 5 TV movies. So yeah, I think it's amazing. At first I thought it was stupid, but I fell in love with the script. Yo, check it.
For me, the best science fiction films are as much about the present as they are about the future. And the best escapist films usually have something fairly, non-escapist to say about some sort of element of life. E.T. is a film about divorce as much as it's a film about a little alien. So Attack the Block is definitely trying to do something similar. It has a social subtext. It's trying to say something about the way we think about kids like that and the way we think about people who live in places like that and the way that culture and art often present them. And it's trying to make you think a bit about that.
We're trying to defeat the stereotype, basically, because when you think gang, hoodies, youths and just trouble straight away, but there is trouble, but when something like this happens, and because gangs are portrayed in the media as animals, I would say, and savages and all this, but when the aliens come down and the reality kicks in, who do you turn to then? And the gang was there to save the day, so they're not the monsters anymore, and they have to kill the actual monsters that come.
At the beginning, you hate the main characters because there's a mugging. We rob someone, and you absolutely hate us. What it starts off as? It starts off like just another, urban youth estate film. But then this alien comes down, and throughout the whole film, you kind of realise that we're just kids, and each one of us has a different backstory.
The writing process was really enjoyable because we did it in an unusual way. I formulated the story, the kind of treatment, in a 10-page document, and then we went and talked to loads of youth groups, loads of kids in South London, and we talked them through the story, and I had a friend do big illustrations of particular moments. And I asked these kids, what would you do if this happened? How would you protect yourself? Who would you want to defend? How would you arm yourself? What vehicle would you use? How would you feel about this, about that?
I ain't even gonna say.
You know what that is? I'll tell you what that is. That's an alien, bruv. Believe it. Must have come from outer space trying to take over the Earth, innit? When I landed in the wrong place, though, you get the wrong place.
Another thing I like about the films that I saw when I was growing up was the practical nature of a lot of the effects work. When I was a kid, anything that was an effect was either a costume, a puppet, or a painting. So I wanted my creatures to be practical, and they are practical. So in Attack the Block, when someone is jumped on by an alien, the alien is jumping on them. When an alien crashes through a window, it's crashing through the window. There's nothing added later. You don't get characters looking slightly to the left of the monster. They're not reacting to tennis balls on sticks.
What is that?
When one's running at you down the corridor, he was going full pelt, and the guys in there were so fast and so technically proficient that it was scary. We weren't having to guess the height of anything. It was there, and when we physically interact with them, they're there, and that was. I'm really inexperienced on that side. I've never done green screen before. I've never done anything like that. So to have that fear in front of you, and it's hard enough, reacting anyway and remembering that you've got to turn your head so a squib doesn't go off in your face, but to then have an actual physical threat was really helpful.
There's one scene where I'm getting chased, and I was genuinely scared. I was running at full speed, he's running at half speed, and he's already at my heels about to bite my leg, so it was really scary.
I wanted to try and make an escapist fantasy film that in some way connected with the reality of life, but also provided an escape from that reality. So if I was able to give a kid of the age I was when I saw E.T. The same kind of thrill that I got from that movie, I would A, be very happy, and B, be breaking the law because my films are 15 and they'd be 12.